SpectraLogic has some exciting disk products as well as tape that we've been known for many, many years. And we've recently joined the CommVault Technology Alliance Partner Program, and we've certified our products to work with Simpana. So there's a lot of goodness coming from CommVault and SpectraLogic. We want to tell you all about it and tell you how, by combining these two great software and hardware solutions, you can make your lives a lot easier and save a bunch of money for your organizations. So why don't we go to the next slide? Just to set this thing up, I won't spend too much time here, but I will make a couple of comments. One is what we're hearing from end users around the world is that the onslaught of data that needs to be stored does not slow down. In fact, it's probably accelerating. And data capture is coming in from sources that IT folks, whether you're a corporation or a public organization or government agency, there's probably data coming at you from places that you didn't think would be just 2-3 years ago. And methods for managing that are really, really hard. Yes, you can have manual methods of figuring out, okay, when these WAV files reach 30 days, we're going to delete them, but it's really hard to do. And storage resource management software to automatically delete data is really, really difficult as well. So what we find a lot of folks doing is basically just saying, I'm just going to store it. Disk is cheap, tape is cheap, just let me store it, let me figure out how to store it as inexpensively and easily as possible. Whether you're storing data that needs fast access on transaction processing systems or that just needs to be there just in case for a disaster, for a recovery like a backup, or for an archive, where if you just want to move the data off of your expensive transactional system, put it somewhere else, but be able to get to it very quickly. Those are the problems that we're off trying to solve here. Next slide, please. So really, transactional disk, I'm going to have to assume that most everyone on the call that's joined has some kind of high performance disk system that you use to run your business, run the organization. It needs to be fast. It needs to be up all the time. It needs to have all of the fancy features that you'd expect in a disk system. But typically, you're spending a good chunk of money, not just for acquisition costs, but for management costs. And for acquisition alone, for Tier 1 transaction processing, high-performance disk, you're looking at $2, $3, $4 a gigabyte, somewhere in that range probably. Obviously, if you're a large organization, you've got negotiating power, you can get less than that. But it's typically, certainly north of $1 a gig. Then there's other ways of storing data for backup, and that's deduplication appliances. And I suspect some of you are using those. So in the last 4 or 5 years, deduping data for backup purposes to small disk systems or large disk systems have become pretty common. Those can be expensive as well, and those don't also meet all of your needs in terms of archiving and really long-term storage. Another way we've seen customers try to store data for long-term is just build their own or buy the cheapest bare-bone white box storage array that you can possibly find. And that takes a lot of time, effort, and know-how for the IT team, and support is difficult. Those low-cost systems, RAID software is usually pretty buggy, and you wind up with problems down the road. So if you go to the next slide, I'm sure you're all smart enough to realize that we're teeing up the concept that in the last year, Spectra has introduced a new disk product. We call it nTier Verde. Our tagline for it is simply affordable file storage. It is not designed to be transaction processing. It's not designed to run your business, but it is designed to store data that you don't need in a millisecond or a second. You just know you need to get it very, very quickly, but it's not ready to be archived out to tape yet. So it's a second tier in your storage platform. The great things about it are, one is that it's really, really easy to use, and you do not need to be a storage expert to use this or install it. The second one is that it is very low cost. You'll see I've got a couple slides coming here, but basically we're looking at under 50 cents a gigabyte for acquisition costs. So it's expensive. It gets down to what you might buy a white box storage array for. But even though it has those first two qualities, it is designed to never lose your data. Very, very high reliability. Next slide. By the way, I think Tom might have said this up front, but it's kind of clunky to take questions during, but we can either take questions between my part of the presentations and Tom, or I think we can just hold them to the very end and we can handle all your questions then. So as far as no previous storage experience required, we did design this to be able to be set up yourself, so you do not need to purchase an installation service from SpectraLogic. You can choose to take it out of the box and put it into production, and we promise that you will be able to do it in less than 30 minutes. It's that simple. We've designed the user interface to be not for the eyeballs of a storage expert, but for the eyeballs of someone that just knows general IT systems. So very, very simple dashboard management style, very easy to set up disk pools, set up RAID arrays, map volumes to LUNs, all that simple stuff that needs to happen. We've made it very, very easy. And we also have a smartphone app so that you can monitor you can monitor the whole system, but we find that most customers are using the smartphone to just monitor the hardware from remote sites. So if you're an IT manager and you just want to know that your Verde is up and running, you can actually access it from a smartphone. Next slide. The other things about ease of use is online expansion. So you would expect in this day and age to be able to change the size of disk pools very, very quickly, add drives to a disk pool. You can thin provision every volume if you choose, so that makes it very easy to not have to worry about how large a volume has to be for a given file system. And we also have designed there's a little photo of what the front panel looks like. We've designed a pretty fancy light that helps you visually see what's going on in the system if you're walking by it on the data center floor. Next slide. So talk about cost here. We threw out this 48 cents a gig. That's for a large system. For a small system, it's going to be a little bit more than 48 cents a gig. But in general, list price is about 48 cents a gigabyte. And if you shop around, is that as cheap as you can buy a consumer-grade drive from Fry's? No, it's not, obviously. But then you're talking about building your own and using consumer-grade disk drives. I've got a slide coming up next, but we are using enterprise-class SAS drives. These are not consumer-grade SATA drives. So you're getting an enterprise-class drive in a fully redundant system of 48 cents a gig. We don't charge extra for the software fees, so if you choose to use features like compression and snapshots and replication, those features are included with the price. There's no extra add-on fees there. Like I said about the installation and maintenance, you do it yourself if you choose, so we do not force you to buy a professional service contract for it. You can. Obviously, we'll sell you one if you want our help, but it's not needed, so you can save those dollars for other projects in your IT budget. Another thing that we do at Spectra, not just for our disk products, but also for our tape products, is that we have something called price lock, which says that the annual maintenance cost for our products will not go up in a year faster than the CPI, because we've seen a lot of our competitors do some interesting deals where maintenance price is X for year one and it's 2X for years 2, 3, and 4. So we don't do things like that to our customers. Next slide. Okay, so about never lose your data. So like I said, it's a very robust system. We've got software there that takes extra time and thinks through how do we make sure, when the engineers thought this through, they were thinking about data corruption. Because if you're going to use an nTier Verde to archive data from a transaction processing system or from a Tier 1 disk and actually move the data so it does not exist in Tier 1 anymore, and you put it on the Verde, we wanted to make sure that you'd have the confidence that it's going to be there for a long time. And we're really good at this, right? This is what we do to tape as well. We have a lot of the same capabilities in our tape systems to make sure that when you write data to tape, we know it's got to be there for a long time, so we do extra error checking and make sure there's no corruption. We do the same thing in our disk systems. There's a lot of error redundancy and parity check options that we employ when we write data to disks. As far as the hardware, I mentioned that these are SAS drives, which is something that's not common for low-cost disk systems. You usually see consumer-grade SATA down at this price point, so we're pretty happy with the fact that we're able to design a system that has enterprise-class SAS, 7,200 RPM. And then, the very bottom bullet is that you can shop around and you can probably find cheaper, but you're probably not going to find it with SAS and with the support of a large company like Spectralogic. Okay, next slide. So these are the specs. I won't walk through every row here. A couple of things to point out. There are two models. If you're a small shop and just need a small amount of storage, up to 44 terabytes, you might start with the 2U version. It's got one expansion mode. The larger one is a 4U version that expands all the way up to 1.7 petabytes. I think I said the 2U one wrong. The 2U goes up to 220 terabytes, and the 4U can expand up to 1.7 petabytes, and that is on basically one floor tile. One rack full of Verdes is about 1.7 petabytes of storage. The other thing I didn't mention here that's on the slide is the way that you get data to these products is file systems, so either NFS or CIFS. So it is strictly file storage for Unix or Windows or any operating system that can support NFS or CIFS. Okay, let's move on. Just a quick plug to remind everyone that our heritage has been designing, developing, and manufacturing tape library systems. We've been doing it for over 35 years, or close to 35 years anyway. And we have a large array of systems. So we can start very small. We can grow to exabyte-sized tape systems. We have some of the largest tape systems in the world. Some of the things that you'll see from Spectralogic in the tape world is that we take the pain out of managing tape. We make it very, very easy to do. You do not have to be a tape expert. You don't have to have significant tape experience to use our systems. And the other thing that we're pretty proud about is that you can start with one of the products that you see here that might fit your needs today, and we can actually grow them into larger and larger systems as your needs grow. So we're known for that very easy expansion over time. Next slide. Okay, so to start to introduce what we're doing with CommVault, I suspect that some of you on the call are already CommVault Simpana users. I suspect some of you are not, but we're pretty happy about the fact that we've partnered with CommVault and their industry-leading software on data management. You can see some of the collateral we've put together. Some of you may have already received the white paper that's titled Silver Bullet Solution. If you're interested, obviously, you can get that off our website. But basically, we're combining all of the great hardware products, disk and tape, that Spectralogic has to offer and integrate it into what Simpana does. And the nice thing about it is when you purchase a solution from CommVault and Spectra, we now have the added benefit that the two companies have certified the products together. Our support organizations will work together and just make sure that it's a perfectly smooth experience for you no matter where you're installing this. Next slide. This goes through the components of it. For those of you that are CommVault customers, you're familiar with the terms of CommServe and media agent servers. Greg is going to go into more detail about CommVault and Simpana here in a second. And then the only other thing I wanted to mention is my last slide before we turn it over is this is from CommVault support site where they're talking about what's a really good disk system to use with Simpana, and obviously we wouldn't have put it there if we didn't meet the requirements. So we're delivering a very robust disk solution that fits perfectly into any Simpana environment that you might be using or might be considering using. Okay, Tom, unless there's anything else you can think of, I think I can turn over to Greg.
Sounds great. We're transitioning some slides, and Bruce, thank you for the time. And Greg, we'll turn it over to you.
Excellent. Thank you. And thanks so much, Bruce, for that setup. I am excited to be here talking about the software side of a great solution with CommVault and SpectraLogic to help you better manage and take advantage of all the data that you have out there in your environment. And for those of you that aren't familiar, Simpana is our single product that we make here at CommVault, and it is a single platform software solution for data and information management, as you can see here. And there are a lot of different modular capabilities that make up that single solution, whether that's backup or archive or search or e-discovery, but that's all built on a single platform. And with Simpana, you're able to both strategically and tactically address what you're trying to do from a data and information management perspective. And by that, I mean from a tactical perspective, do you want to dedupe and reduce your data footprint? And from a strategic standpoint, how and where do I want to keep data over the course of its life cycle? And so what I wanted to do is, kind of call out, Bruce had mentioned that we are a leader in the industry. This is just to highlight how our approach and innovation has been recognized across the industry, most recently being named a leader in the latest Gartner Magic Quadrant, where they really called out our unified architecture across backup, archive, and e-discovery, as you can kind of see in that last piece. But across Gartner, Forrester, all really recognizing what we're doing from an innovation standpoint. So what does it really mean when I talk about a single platform? Well, it really all starts with data sources. So whether it's laptop data, Oracle data, Exchange, file, we can protect, archive, manage that data. We bring it into the Simpana platform. We apply that enterprise intelligence through metadata and understanding, add it to our catalog, and then put it into this Simpana content store. And that's really this virtual repository of all the data that we manage and have an understanding of. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that, but that's a really big value proposition. And that's where SpectraLogic really comes into play and provides a lot of value. That content store is like I say, a virtual repository, and it can exist across disk, tape, cloud. And this is a great place where the SpectraLogic storage, the capabilities that they bring, whether it's disk or tape, and where you want to keep that data that's most optimal to meet the cost and access footprint that, needs that you have, that's where that comes in. And so once we get the data into the content store, then we open that up for access for lots of different needs for analysis, e-discovery, search, etc. And so what I wanted to do was talk a little bit more about the content store itself. I kind of highlighted some of the things here a minute ago, but really looking at how this helps contribute to efficiency by being able to put that data where you want it to meet that access and cost footprint. Do it really securely, so leveraging encryption, role-based access, those things that are going to make sure that only the people that should see it can see it. And then be able to open up that access to end users through mobile devices, securely through web-based console, and I'll kind of highlight that some more here at the end. But when it's all available through the catalog and able to be searched, then having the access modes to be able to get to it can really empower and provide a lot of value for an organization. So once all that data is in there, now it's really an asset. So you can understand it and leverage it to improve efficiency. You can look to leverage it for compliance and e-discovery, being able to do legal hold, be able to do search and e-discovery, all part of an integrated platform through CommVault Simpana. You can be able to look across different devices, access through different ways. And then you can leverage that data, obviously, for recovery, and that's a big piece of what people look to do with Simpana. That's usually kind of the starting point. but being able to also bring in the pieces about recovery and e-discovery and all that on a single platform provide a lot of value, we found. So kind of moving into the next piece of it, which is talking about focusing on a few of the things that truly differentiate Simpana from other point products that are out there in the market and really highlight our solving forward philosophy for innovation. On the backup side, this is really embodied in the IntelliSnap, snapshot management, and Simpana OnePass. This former, Simpana IntelliSnap, really being about critical application recovery. I'm going to just take a minute to talk about that here in a second. And then OnePass being where you've got capabilities that are going to help you deal with how data is growing on the file, the email front. How do I better protect that, manage it? How do I take more advantage of my resources? And so let's kind of focus first on the IntelliSnap side. So whether you're leveraging snapshots today or you're thinking about it, it's increasingly becoming a way for people to get a quick protection copy on their primary storage, that primary copy of data. The challenge has always been that there are separate tools and consoles for every different storage array. There's limited application awareness, and there's a lot of scripting, a lot of manual processes, and heavy lifting. What we have been focused on at Simpana is applying a unified approach to that, a singular approach, where across all the different applications, you have the integration. You're able to quiesce those applications, those VMs, take the snapshot, turn them back on, and do that all as a scheduled automated process through the Simpana console. And that can be done across all sorts of different storage arrays. We have 19 of the top 20 storage arrays certified, so a single tool for all the arrays, all the applications. And then once you've got that snap copy, you can take it off production host, collect your backup copy from, build your backup copy from that snapshot. So you've really got multiple ways to recover and multiple ways to protect, all very easy. Remove all the manual parts, the scripting, the multiple tools to do it. And that backup copy can live kind of anywhere you want it to be. And this is another great area where Spectra Logic storage comes into play. Do you want to keep that backup copy on disk for a while and then move it off to tape? You have those options and built through the CommVault tool. So when it comes to OnePass, on the left, you'll see kind of the traditional approach to how people back up, archive, and report on their environments. Typically, those are each their own individual scan, their own individual collection, data movement. What we did was really try and simplify that and make it much more efficient by combining all of those processes into a single scan of the file system and email. So scan once, do your backup, do your archive, collect your data for reporting, put it in the content store, and open it up for access. And on the Outlook, on the Exchange front, we added the capability to have a plug-in to Outlook where once that data is in the content store, I can now have my individual users see their archive data within Outlook. So you can ingest PST files, you can archive email data, and then present it to the end user through Outlook as if it's still an Exchange. So it's really almost like an infinite mailbox for them. But you're better able to manage where that data is kept. You can keep Exchange slim and trim. And this can all be done as part of the OnePass process, as part of some of the other processes in Simpana, but really highlighting, reducing the processes that go into where and how I manage my data. And this is really important as data grows and scales. File systems are getting so big that it just takes too much time even just to scan them multiple times to do multiple processes. And then providing that efficiency, that ability to open up that data for more uses and open it up to end users. So just to kind of add one or two more things here around what we try and what we mean when we talk about a single data management platform. Being able to have that backup, that archive, search, and e-discovery, but also having those other pieces that fit in that support all of those, and that includes reporting, deduplication, and being able to have that be an integrated part of the solution. Encryption is another, without having to have separate tools that you're going to have to manage. That's one of the key differentiators and value propositions that we bring from a Simpana perspective. And this just kind of highlights the reporting side of that, being able to customize your views and understanding of your environment. You can do and see what's going on with Simpana the way you want to, what reports are most important to me. You can customize reports, have them run automatically and be sent around. And you can even leverage, just like Bruce was talking about, a mobile app to understand what's going on with your Spectra Logic storage. The same thing on the Simpana front. We've got a mobile app where you can go in, and the admin now has the capability from anywhere to be able to stop stop and start jobs, resume, that sort of thing. So really provides, helps increase that productivity, but also gives that understanding, that capability to react to needs within the environment very easily. And so finally, what I wanted to do was highlight sort of all the ways that you can enhance productivity with self-service and role-based access to your protected and archived data. So as you can see across here, we have smartphone apps where you can get to your protected laptop data. The end user is able to retrieve or show, even edit and upload back into the content stored data that they have on their desktops, their laptops. And they can do that across tablets, smartphones. There's a web browser where you can come in and see all the data that you manage or that you own within Simpana. So if I have VMs that are being protected, if I have Exchange data being protected, my laptop and server data being protected, I can see all of this within the web browser, manage my own recoveries, add capabilities around creating VMs, retiring VMs, protecting VMs. Lots of different features that you can do from a web perspective, enable the end user. And then role-based access for compliance search, and of course the Outlook plugin that I talked about before. So it's just some examples that really highlight how managed data can be an asset. And I'll just kind of close by talking about, a lot of times people think about backup data as an insurance policy, archive data, just that copy I just have to keep around. When you have these capabilities, this way to be able to tier it, to keep it easily in an automated policy-based way on the right kind of storage for that access, but also open up access to that data, to that insurance, that backup copy that really didn't have a whole lot of value in your mind beforehand. Now an end user can get to it and leverage it and use it. And even if it brings a little bit of value, that's more than what it was as just an insurance policy. But often what we've seen is now people are finding new ways to leverage that data to be able to use it and create more value. And so with that, I am going to wrap up here and say thank you for allowing me to be a part of this and help kind of explain the great things that are going on here between CommVault and Spectra Logic, and then I'll hand it back over.
Great. Thanks so much, Greg. So at this time, everybody, we're going to open up the Q&A, and as I mentioned at the beginning of the call, we're going to go ahead and coordinate that via the chat functionality. So as you're teeing up questions and things that you want to ask of our presenters, please go ahead and use that chat functionality. So while those are teeing up, we did have a few others that have already come through, so I'm going to go ahead and rattle off maybe a few of those as, again, our queue fills up with Q&A. Greg, I think this one might be best suited by you. How are you seeing other people tier backup data?
Yes. We're seeing massive growth in this disk-to-tape. Snapshots, like I mentioned at the beginning, increasingly being sort of at the start of that tier. But more and more people leveraging a disk tier in between there, where they can have that backup copy readily accessible. They'll usually keep that, for anywhere from a week to a month, and then that as it goes longer term, then they'll move it off the tape. So what we're really seeing a lot of is obviously the disk-to-tape trend has become the mainstream, and more ideas and more focus around how do I time and what do I want as far as a tiering perspective from one to the next.
Okay, great. Thank you. The next question that had come in, is nTier Verde designed to replace tape, or can it work in conjunction with tape? And Bruce, I'm guessing that might be a question designed for you.
Yeah, so I would say that there might be some small organizations that are currently using tape that aren't filling up their library that might be ready to just put in some good archive-grade disk like a Verde and not use tape. But I would think that would be the exception and not the norm. I would think that really what Verde is doing is giving data a place to go in between your high-performance processing system, your everyday production system, before it goes to tape. So Greg mentioned disk to tape. Verde is the middle disk, right, where it's a good resting place, it's reliable, the data's going to be there. You can get it very quickly if you need to, and then at some date you might choose to put it out to tape, and that's why the partnership with CommVault is so great, because they enable all that to happen very seamlessly, and the IT folks don't have to think about it. They just set some parameters within Simpana, and away you go.
Okay, great. And I think this actually might be a follow-up question to that, so I'm going to go ahead and throw this one up in the prioritization. What benefit does Verde have over the disk systems we use today? Why should we switch?
Yeah, so really what it comes down to is cost and complexity. And we have a lot of customers that have looked at Verde and had that question. And really where they come around to putting Verde in production with us is that their needs for storing data are just outstripping their budgets. And instead of investing in just another NetApp or EMC array or HP disk array that can be very expensive, why don't we figure out how to archive some data from those tiers to Verde? So we're not trying to replace what you have, but we're giving you a low-cost option to build a smart disk archive so that you can free up space and extend the life of the Tier 1 disk that you currently have.
All right. Thank you, Bruce. Another one of the questions that came in, and I know there's a few being answered on the chat functionality as well. Can CommVault and Spectra Logic help with disaster recovery? So I'm not sure which one of you wants to tackle that one.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Greg.
Go ahead.
No,
you go ahead. Okay. I'll throw something out and then jump in as well, Bruce. From a CommVault perspective, we've got a couple different ways to address disaster recovery. It can be flexible to meet your unique needs. We can migrate a deduplicated copy of backup data to another site, and so this is a great way to leverage an nTier Verde array at another site. This is something we call dash copies, so a deduplicated copy from one site to another. It's highly efficient. It can go one-to-one, one-to-many. We also have some workflow automation capabilities, so we can start scripts and workflow processes, and this can really help when people create their disaster recovery run books instead of having to do that on paper and it's out of date as soon as it comes out. You can leverage a workflow within Simpana that you can just address, just change as things change within your environment. And we even have that capability to leverage the ability to take a backup copy and turn it into a VM at another location. So you have the ability to have your compute and your data efficiently staged or moved ready at another site, and leveraging the nTier Verde storage at either location can all be a part of that.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I would add is that when you're doing replication for multiple sites, we've got both really good disk and really good tape options to be storing that data. That's all I'd say to add to what Greg said. So as you replicate, in some cases you just want to replicate and know that it's there. So that's a perfect use for a large tape library.
All right, thank you both for tag teaming that one. And folks, we have time for probably one more question. I know we have a handful of others that we're likely going to have to just manage offline just because we're running out of time. So with that being said, Greg, I think this one is probably for you. I saw a Gartner quote on the unification of backup and archive in your slides. Can you speak to what that means?
Yeah, certainly. In the past and with other products in the market, backup and archive have typically been separate functions, separate silos, requiring separate management and storage. CommVault's approach of building different data management capabilities all on that single platform, these capabilities like backup, archive, e-discovery, sharing that same management interface, that single pool of data, and those supporting technologies like dedupe and encryption. That's been our philosophy, and that's something that Gartner has recognized, and they see more people interested as data grows into not having separate pools of data for these different capabilities when they could all be done the same. And other people are trying to figure out ways to integrate across. Since we built on this single platform, we have the freedom to really be focused on innovating instead of integrating. But that's what they're talking about. They're talking about putting all those different capabilities together under a single management interface, single pool of storage, and helping manage it, particularly as data grows crazily.
All right, thank you. All right, everybody, with that being said, that concludes the call for today. Thank you all for your time. Bruce, Greg, thank you for your time and information here. If you do have any questions that were not addressed, again, we will follow up with you offline if you had a question that was in the chat functionality. Or if something else comes up after the fact, go ahead and reach out to your respective Spectra or CommVault representative. Again, thanks for your time, everybody, and we look forward to speaking to you all soon. Bye-bye.